Hi all. Sorry for the delay. We are waiting for one panelist. Apparently, as you know, there is a flood going on in Bangladesh, and Nusrat is in her capacity supporting some of the flood victims. She just confirmed that she'll be joining in a while, so we are waiting for her. But like before that, thank you everyone for joining with us. We will be starting in 5 minutes, hopefully. Hi, welcome everyone to our webinar on Bangladesh Youth Uprising towards a Democratic Future. Good evening to the friends joining from Asia and Australia, and good morning to the friends joining from Europe and Americas. Welcome everyone again. My name is Akib. I work for Sydney Policy Analysis Center, an Australia-based think tank. This is our fourth webinar with Asia Democracy Network on Bangladesh. Apparently, when we started planning the series of webinars back in early 2024, Bangladesh just had a sham election, locking almost all opposition leaders in the jails, and the democracy of Bangladesh was in real crisis. Accountability in governance was a thing of the past. We wanted to seek attention from our friends abroad to work with us to restore democracy in Bangladesh at that moment. But on August 5, as we know, through a popular uprising, the brutal regime that ruled over Bangladesh for more than 15 years fell, and the leader of the regime, Sheikh Hasina, fled, and our aspirations for a democratic future were renewed. Today, we have guests with us, and each of them played a role during the uprising. We have Nusrat Tabassum. She will be joining shortly with us. Nusrat was a coordinator of the Students Against Discrimination, the platform that actually led the uprising. And we have Reza Rahman Lenin, a researcher and human rights activist from Bangladesh with us. We have Skip Khan, a rapper who produced music tracks to motivate the youth during the movement. I hope and welcome all the speakers. Now, a bit of ground rules before we formally start the session. We are recording the session and it's live streamed on YouTube, and we will publish it on the Spotify as a podcast later on. We have muted the participants as you join to avoid noise during the conversation. But the session will start with the guest speaking on the topic, and there will be a question and answer session as well after that. So if you have any questions to ask, please write them to me or the organizers. I will pass them on to the guests. And we have guests from Bangladesh, so I will go bilingual and request our guests to speak any language they're comfortable with. I will later summarize their speech in English. And note that we draft a briefing paper after each of the event and share it with our partners and participants. So I can guarantee that you will not miss anything because of the language barriers or anything. So let me start the session formally. I'm requesting Sabra Zahid from Asia Democracy Network to share her opening remarks. Sabra, over to you.
Thanks, Akib. Good afternoon and good evening and good morning to everyone joining us from around the world. I'm Sabra Zahid, the Program Officer and South Asia Representative at the Asia Democracy Network. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to our fourth webinar in our series on all things democracy in Bangladesh. So this event, in partnership with the Sydney Policy and Analysis Center, comes at a crucial time as we witness the bravery and determination of Bangladesh's youth in their fight for democracy. So today's discussion focuses on on the recent youth uprising in Bangladesh, a movement that has caught the world's attention. So it's a powerful example of collective action where students, young professionals, and everyday citizens came together to demand justice, equality, and democratic rights. So this movement reflects the growing frustration with authoritarian rule and the desire for the people to reclaim their rights and shape their future. So we are honored to have with us today some key figures from this movement, people who have faced the struggles, threats, and victories of standing up against a regime that has tried to silence them. So from the courageous student leaders to the artists and activists amplifying the movement's message, today's session will explore their stories and contributions to this fight for democracy. So I think, as we begin this conversation, I think it's important to think about the broad impact of this movement, not just for Bangladesh, but for the region and the world. So what we are seeing is not just a local struggle, but part of a global fight for human rights, accountability, and democratic governance. So I'd like to thank our panelists for joining with us, and I'm looking forward to a meaningful and thought-provoking discussion. I'm going to hand over to Akib now, who will moderate today's discussion. Thank you, and I hope you all you enjoy the webinar.
Oh, thank you so much, Sabra. So I will go to Nusrat first. Nusrat is the hero of the moment. Nusrat has led the movement as a part of the coordinating team of Students Against Discrimination. So Nusrat, my first question to you, I will first ask this in English and then I will translate this to Bangla as well. Like in Bangladesh, we have seen pro-democracy movements gaining momentum and then like crushed by brute forces for the last 15 years. And we have observed similar crackdown that also happened during the protest. In fact, we know that you were picked up by the security forces, the detective branch during the movement, and but still you did not bow down and continue the fight. And as we observed at one point, the common people who had nothing to do with the quota or the discrimination in the recruitment system, they also joined the students in the streets. And especially there was a massive participation of female students in this movement, not only in Dhaka, but in all part of the country. I was part of a like journalist team that was observing this situation, and we noticed a lot of female was participating in this movement, which is quite unique. So we want to know your views on the uprising, that what was your experience, and what brought all the people of all ages and occupation together to fight a brutal dictator, and did the participation of women and female students have any role in this? সো অ্যাপারেন্টলি আমি যদি একটু এভাবে করে বলি যে আমাদের এই মুভমেন্টে এই যে আমরা তো যেটা দেখি যে গণতান্ত্রিক অনেক আন্দোলনের ক্ষেত্রে আমরা দেখেছি যে চেষ্টা করা হয়েছে আহ, অনেক অনেক কিছু সফলতা পাওয়ার জন্য, কিন্তু ক্র্যাকডাউনের কারণে দেখা গেছে সেই আন্দোলনগুলো সফল হতে পারেনি। কিন্তু এই আন্দোলনটাতে আমরা দেখেছি যে আমাদের সাধারণ মানুষ এই আন্দোলনে কিভাবে অংশগ্রহণ করেছে এবং একটা পর্যায়ে তারা বিজয় অর্জন করেছে। এবং আমি আরেকটা বিষয় যেটা হচ্ছে আমরা অবজার্ভ করেছি পুরো মুভমেন্টের সময়, সেটা হচ্ছে যে নারীদের একটা অংশগ্রহণ ছিল খুব ব্যাপকভাবে। এবং এই বিষয়গুলো সম্পর্কে আপনার অভিজ্ঞতা প্রথমে, এবং আপনি কি মনে করেন কিনা যে নারীদের অংশগ্রহণ এই মুভমেন্টে একটা অনেক বড় রোল প্লে করেছে? নুসরাত।
সরি, বাংলায় বললে তো কোনো অসুবিধা নেই আর কি।
না, একদমই না।
ধন্যবাদ। আসলে আন্দোলনটা শেষ হওয়ার পর এখন আমাদের কাছে এখন আন্দোলনটা শেষ হয়েছে বলে মনে হচ্ছে না। বাংলাদেশের অবস্থা সম্পর্কে আপনারা মনে হয় কিছুটা জানেন। আন্দোলন পরবর্তী সংস্কার কার্যক্রম, সেখানকার বাধা বিঘ্ন মিলিয়ে এখন পর্যন্ত আমরা সেই রাজপথে রয়েছি, সেই মুভমেন্টের মধ্যে রয়েছি বলতে গেলে। তবে হ্যাঁ, এই আন্দোলন ২৪-এর আন্দোলনটা যেভাবে বাংলাদেশের মানুষ দেখলো, এই ঘটনাটা খুবই অভূতপূর্ব। শুধুমাত্র নারী শিক্ষার্থীদের অংশগ্রহণ না, নারীদের অংশগ্রহণ, সকল বয়সের নারী, শিশু, শ্রমিক নির্বিশেষে মানুষের যে একটা অংশগ্রহণ, এই ধরনের ইউনিটি, এই ধরনের একতা বাংলাদেশে এর আগে খুব কম দেখছে। আমি আমার মনে আছে ১৭ তারিখে যখন পাবলিক বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়গুলো বন্ধ হয়ে গেল, তখন কিন্তু আমরা সবাই আশা ছেড়ে দিয়েছিলাম। আমরা হাল ছেড়ে দিয়েছিলাম যে এরপরে কি হবে। আমাদেরকে রাতের বেলা হল থেকে পুলিশ দিয়ে ভয় দেখিয়ে সাউন্ড গ্রেনেড ফাটিয়ে আমাদেরকে মানে রীতিমতো জোর জবরদস্তি করে হল থেকে বের করে দেওয়া হয়। তারপরে আসলে আমরা কোথায় যাবো, এতগুলো স্টুডেন্ট কোথায় যাবে, কি করবে, কোথায় থাকবে, আর সেই অবস্থাতে পরের দিন আন্দোলন কিভাবে চলবে আমরা সত্যি জানতাম না। কিন্তু তার পরের দিন একেবারে মানে ফেরেস্তার মতো করে প্রাইভেট ইউনিভার্সিটি স্টুডেন্টরা নেমে আসলো, তারপরে ন্যাশনালের ওরা নেমে আসলো, সাধারণ জনগণ, কলেজের ছাত্রছাত্রী, স্কুলের ছাত্রছাত্রী, অভিভাবকরা সবাই যখন নেমে আসলো, এই আন্দোলনের আসলে সফলতার দিকে যাওয়া ছাড়া কোনো উপায় ছিল না। আর নারীদের অংশগ্রহণ, ও মাই গড, আমি কি বলবো আপনাকে, নারীদের অংশগ্রহণ এবার এত সিগনিফিক্যান্ট ছিল। আমার আমার মনে আছে আমি আমি যে হলে থাকি, শামসুন্নাহার হল, আমার হল থেকে একটা মেয়েও থাকতো না ঘরে। প্রত্যেকটা মেয়ে আমরা প্রতিদিন বের হয়ে যেতাম আন্দোলনে অংশ নেওয়ার জন্য। একসাথে প্রত্যেকটা মেয়ে আবার হলে ফিরতাম। আমরা যখন যেখানে গিয়েছি আমরা দেখেছি বিভিন্ন বয়স্ক মহিলারা, তারা আমাদের জন্য খাবার পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছে, সাহায্য পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছে। কম বয়সী কিন্তু গৃহবধূ, আমি এরকম দেখেছি নিউলি ওয়েডেড, নিউলি ম্যারিড মেয়েরাও তার হাজবেন্ডকে সহ নিয়ে চলে এসেছে আন্দোলনে অংশ নিতে। এবারের আন্দোলনে মেয়েদের যে অংশগ্রহণ, এর পেছনে অনেকগুলো কারণ রয়েছে। এক, আমার মনে হয় যে উচ্চশিক্ষা বৃদ্ধির সাথে সাথে নারীরা আসলে তাদের যে গতানুগতিক চিন্তা ভাবনা, সেটা থেকে সত্যি সত্যি মনে হয় বের হয়ে এসেছে। তারা এখন কোনটা ন্যায়, কোনটা অন্যায়, কোনটা উচিত, কোনটা অনুচিত, এটা জেন্ডার মানে লিঙ্গ বৈষম্যের বাইরে গিয়ে মেয়েরা এটা চিন্তা করতে পারে যে এটা উচিত, এটা আমার করা লাগবে। নাগরিক হিসেবে এখানে আমার ভূমিকা পালন করা দরকার। নারী হিসেবে আলাদা করে মেয়েরা নিজেদেরকে আলাদা রাখতে চায় না, তারা এখন দেশের নাগরিক হিসেবে ভূমিকা পালন করার জন্য প্রস্তুত। এই আন্দোলনে যেভাবে সকল বয়সের মেয়েদেরকে সব ধরনের কার্যক্রমে অংশ নিতে দেখেছি, তাতে আমি বাংলাদেশে ভবিষ্যতে নারীদের জীবনযাত্রা এবং নারীদের অংশগ্রহণ নিয়ে খুবই আশাবাদী। আর কোনো প্রশ্ন?
No, thank you, Nusrat. So, I will translate this a bit, and then I will open the floor to Lenin Bhai and also like Skip Khan. That is, as Nusrat was saying, that the level of participation from all walks of life, to people of all walks of life, irrespective of gender, was unprecedented in the history of Bangladesh. And as she was saying that like the movement is not yet over. They're still working together with the people for the reforms in the country, the institutional reforms in the country. And and she was also like remembering the how the movement was triggered on, especially after July 17. So apparently on July 17, the government decided to like crack down on the student protesters, and the all the universities across the country was closed down, sine die, apparently, and they were evicted from the halls. And at that moment, they apparently lost hope that how this movement is going to continue. But what happened was after that was that the students of the private universities, privately owned universities, and the student of the colleges, the degree colleges, student of schools, student of college, like higher schools, high schools, and everywhere, they started coming out. And at one point, the common people were also coming out. The rickshaw pullers were coming out. The housewives are coming out. Even the newly married couples, they came out with the newly married women. They came out with their husband on the streets for in support of the movement. So apparently, this unity actually was the biggest driving force for success of this movement. And as she was saying that like the participation of the women actually shaped the movement a lot. Apparently, this is because it helped them to break the fear against this brutal regime at that point. And also she was saying that with as more women are getting into the higher educational institutions at this moment, so they have grown a sense of what we can call is a sense of uh, right and wrong among themselves, and they have decided to like protest anything that the wrong that is happening to them. Pretty much this is what she was saying, and as she was saying that this unity is going to shape Bangladesh in the future. So I will open the floor for Rizal Rahman Lenin Bhai and also Skip Khan. If you want to speak on this, you are most welcome.
So, okay, Sakib, you want to start? Then I can join.
ফার্স্ট অফ অল আমি নুসরাত আপুকে থ্যাংক ইউ জানাবো যে আপনাদের হাত ধরেই মানে আমরা কথা বলতে পারছি and মানে এতদিন মানে আমরা একটা সেলফ সেন্সরশিপের মধ্যে দিয়ে আমরা যেতাম and মানে ইউ গাইজ ব্রোক দ্য সেন্সরশিপ আমার চোখে পানি চলে আসছে এগুলো বলতে বলতে I just want to know Apu, I want to ask you that we saw a lot of attempts by the government to or the previous regime to cancel communication, disrupt the internet, block the internet. But how did you guys still stay unified and still continue the movement? So this is something I would like to know from you. Akib bhai, if you can translate it for the broader audience.
No, I think Nusrat, you can like answer this question. Like, কেন মানে আপনাদের এত যে ক্র্যাকডাউন হইলো, দেন হচ্ছে আমাদের কমিউনিকেশন ব্লক আউট হইলো একটা পর্যায়ে, এরপরেও কিভাবে আপনারা ইউনাইটেড থাকলেন এবং এই মুভমেন্টটাকে লিড করলেন? সাকিব খান ওয়াজ আস্কিং দিস।
সত্যি সত্যি কথা বলতে সত্যি কথা বলতে আমাদের এই আন্দোলনটা এত বেশি জনগণের মধ্যে একসেপ্টেড হয়েছে। জনগণের যে 16 বছরের আওয়ামী রেজিম দুঃশাসনটা জনগণ দেখেছে, ফেস করেছে, সেটার পরে এত বেশি জনক্ষোভ ভেতরে জমা ছিল। প্রত্যেকে চাচ্ছিল যে একটা একটা গেট খুলে যাক, যেটার মাধ্যমে তারা জনমতের সাথে বাংলাদেশের অন্যান্য ইউনিটের সঙ্গে যোগ দিতে পারবে। এই কথাটা প্রত্যেকটা ইউনিট ভাবতে ছিল। সবাই আসলে ভাবছিল একটা লিডারশিপ, তারা চাচ্ছিল একটা নির্দেশনা। তো যখন ইন্টারনেট ক্র্যাকডাউন হয়ে গেল, তখন তো আমরা ফোনে SMS এর মাধ্যমে একটু একটু যোগাযোগ রাখার ট্রাই করতাম। প্রিন্ট মিডিয়াকে আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাতে চাই। যখন ইলেকট্রনিক মিডিয়া আমাদেরকে সহায়তা করছিল না, তখন ইন্টারন্যাশনাল মিডিয়া আর প্রিন্ট মিডিয়া আমাদের সাহায্য করেছে। তারা আমাদের খবরগুলো প্রচার করেছে। আমরা যেটা করতাম, আমরা প্রত্যেক যেহেতু আগে 17 তারিখের আগে টিমগুলো বানানো হয়ে গিয়েছিল, তো 17 তারিখের পরে আমরা প্রত্যেক টিমের কোনো একজনের কাছে SMS এর মাধ্যমে খবরগুলো মানে নির্দেশনাটুকু পৌঁছে দেওয়ার ব্যবস্থা করতাম। সেই রকম দেখা যাচ্ছে আরো কয়েকজনকে ভাবে পাঠাতো। পুরো বাংলাদেশটা মনে হচ্ছিল যেন একটা মাকড়সার জালের মতো। আমরা মাঝখান থেকে নির্দেশনা দিলে সবাই সবার মতো এটা হ্যান্ড ওভার করে দিচ্ছিল। এভাবে আসলে নির্দেশনাগুলো তখন একবার এক জায়গা থেকে আরেক জায়গায় গিয়েছে।
Okay, that was a brilliant summarization of things, I think. So apparently, what Nusrat was saying that the movement they actually created small teams in every part of the country, and these teams actually worked like a web of the web weaved by spiders, something like that. And when they were like communicating to the other teams through SMS, and then they're like the other teams that was based in the other parts of the country, even in the remotest part of the country, joined the movement through their SMS communication. And what she was saying, that like she also thanked the print media and the international media who helped covering the protest from all sides. Well, though like the other TV channels and satellite media, which is predominantly owned by used to be owned by the people close to the government, they were not supporting that much. But the print media had played a big role here, also the international media. So Lenin Bhai, if you have anything to say on this.
Okay, sure. I think I would prefer to speak in English because many colleagues, former colleagues and also current colleagues are available online as an attendee. So a few things probably need to be added here. When communication actually interrupted, but that so-called censorship, what exists last 15 years, 15 and a half years through legal regime and administrative regime doesn't work. In my presence, many friends and colleagues who are into the movement, very much closely into with the leadership, they actually don't even care this administrative and legal restriction what they actually faced last 15 years, 15 and a half years. So this is one. So this courage actually transformed from one person to another person. And that was, I think, very much critical here. Second thing, also when Ms. Nusrat and also her colleagues, another 5 of them were detained at the detective branch of police. Initially, their whereabouts were unknown. They were also brief period of time enforced disappeared. And at the time, I think the courageous leadership who are coordinator, at least 4 or 5 of them, who actually got an assistant from civilians. Civilians means citizens, and citizens includes rights activists, academics, and also international INGO staff, and also some of the UN staffs also involved in protecting and also raising their voices and keep continuing the struggle. And the strategy, and without any leadership, let's say that, quote unquote, formalized leadership, they kept continuing their friendship and they kept continuing their brotherhood, sisterhood, and at the same time, that helps all together to continue this movement in long run, in absence of the visible and vibrant leadership. So when they were in a secret safety place, safe location, at that time, they also played a very critical role. That's need to be acknowledged. And third thing, I think this Mr. Junaid Alam Polok and his administration, who were running this ICT ministry, and along with other notorious organizations like NTMC, National Telecommunication Monitoring Center, Bangladesh Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, these notorious organizations kept telling lie to the peoples last 15 years. So they out and out rejected their lies and actually keep communicating with these friends and also leading this movement. And obviously, the disturbance and also the violation what citizens actually face in terms of financially, culturally, politically, and civil rights movement was heavily curtailed last few years. So people were ready to accept this revolutionary moment. And that's why this mass uprising kept continuing. And this mass uprising was successful. But now, again, obviously, feminist approach to this situation was excellent. But at the same time, laundry list of utopian pledges or utopian request we are making probably to this interim government, because as we see, this interim government is really struggling into formation of their power. The power structure at the upper hand is very fluid, not really concrete popular demands what actually mass uprising created. That's not necessarily very much respected That's need to be shared. And one particular things obviously need to be shared, the particular role of the academics who were absolutely difficult to convince for civil and political rights last few years, but they came into the street. They actually stands with their students. They released them from the prison, police custody, and also other forms of other forms of resistance what they created within the citizens. That was excellent. And at the same time, artistic freedom, what we were talking about through cartoon, through visual art, and through song. Those things are actually, I think rappers come up with a 30 plus wonderful songs during this movement. And these are all created indigenous process. And that was absolutely probably absent because of heavy restriction of censorship, self-censorship to different forms of censorship. That's administrative, legal, and at the same time, self-censorship was into place. That's hampered their artistic freedom. But the people who were actually surviving as a revolutionary force, they actually took the opportunity in real time, in a real moment. That's also kind of synthesized this whole movement was heavily indigenous, and people who are claiming now there is a CIA involvement, raw Indian intelligence was involvement, that's absolutely bogus, and that was not the case. Obviously, there are lots of diplomatic circle was even wondering that what is happening. They didn't realize that what is happening, what is the situation of the people into the ground, and the collective effort of mass people actually created this scenario very different and very unique. And that's normalization of state of exception actually being challenged, and that's actually overthrown, help us to overthrow this authoritarian fascist regime. Thanks.
Lenin bhai,
Uh,
I would like 100% agree with you. I think few of the points you touched upon was the aspect of communication. I mean, we were witnessing Nusrat Apu and other leaders of the student movement. They were getting captured, they were getting arrested, but still the communication flow did not get disrupted, right? I think this was one of the key success of the whole movement and the effort. And one thing we usually notice in military or in corporate structure is the chain of command, right? So everything is driven down the instruction or objective through a line. And I think the students who were involved in this whole procession maintained that line and chain of communication very well. I mean, when all five or six of the student leaders were arrested, still that did not stop the whole protest or the uprising. So I think you have touched upon a very good point, which is communication. And uh, also a very remarkable thing that everyone was in sync with the whole movement. I mean, we have seen a lot of processions and a lot of protests and movement where they had, let's say, about 19 or 20 or 30 points. So usually when this happens, is that your core focus gets diluted. People picks on, few points and the discussion goes haywire. But I think one of the key success of this whole movement was a clear, conscious and simple point, which everyone was chasing. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you again. So I will move on to the next question that is for Skip Khan. That is you were a rapper, and we know that like music and cultural activism have been an integral part of every movement in Bangladesh. Especially in 1971, we know about the Shadhin Bangla Betar Kendro that played a pivotal role. And in 2024, though some mainstream musicians were inactive during the movement, but we have seen the rappers creating brilliant music tracks and protesting the brutalities, despite knowing the possible consequences if the regime sustained. So we wanted to know from you that what were the response you were getting from your followers when we were creating these tracks, and how much you think your songs motivated the youth during the movement from the response that you got?
Definitely. I mean, if I begin, the role by hip hoppers, rappers, producers, graffiti artists was a very pivotal moment in this whole uprising. I mean, as Lenin Bhai rightly shared, there were I think 30 to 40 songs in during this whole protest, and uh, we did not find the mainstream artists, as you rightly pointed out, the big celebrities and musicians speaking out for whatever reason they might have. But these young rappers, they were so bold, so courageous, and so ruthless. If you allow me, I would like to just touch upon a few songs. I think everyone heard the song named Kotha Ko by Shazam. So Kotha Ko in its literal translation means to talk. Again, which goes in perfect sync with which I was explaining about communication. Right. So Shazam's song inspired everyone to talk about the injustice, to talk about the protests, to talk about the demands. And the way it was accepted and appreciated by every single one. I mean, there's a very famous rock musician, Arafat Kazi. He made a drum cover of it. Every single musician I know shared the song. So this song basically, kept it very there's a term called KISS, keep it stupidly simple. I think the song just did that what we couldn't do before, which is like talk our hearts out, speak our mind. Shazan's song, I think, really helped people to move out from the fear and talk about it. Another song which came out and which was very popular during this whole process was Awaj Utha. Awaj Utha also translates to similar, raise your voice. So usually, what we witnessed in the past 15 years that this was missing. People were not raising their voice. We were complacent. We sort of accepted that there will be injustice. Since I'm not a family member of the ruling power, I will have to face it, or XYZ, someone has to face it. But this song as well, the whole spirit of the song, it's like Awaj Utha, raise your voice, like speak against injustice. All right. So the whole protest started with basically quota reform, right? To reform the quota system. So I would like to again talk about another song which was very, very popular during this protest, which is called Desh Sanskar by Gold Cube. Desh Sanskar translates to reform the country. And I think, again, this was again bang on point. Quota Sanskar was just a very small portion of the whole pie that we were facing problem with. And these songs really, really helped to energize people who were on the streets, who were on the movement, who were actually doing the hard work. Another song really touched my heart. It was called Amar Rokter Damde by Crown Engine, which translates to give, you know, give value or give respect to my brothers or sisters' blood, to the Shohid and the dead ones. So I think all these songs played a very, very crucial role. Everyone here cannot deny the impact or power of music. Music motivates us. Music influences us. It transcends our emotions. It helps us during our hard times. It helps us to focus. And I think the rappers today, they did a wonderful job, and they were able to amplify the voice of the mass. I mean, rappers are usually referred to as, giving voice to the voiceless. We have been vocal about, I mean, not only this regime. I remember dropping my first protest or rebel song back in 2006. The song is called Onuprerona. This was against the first cases of extrajudicial killing and kidnappings which were happening. So, uh, rappers in the country, we talked about the extrajudicial killing. We talked about the nuclear power plant in Rampal. We have songs against the BDR massacre in 2009. I think rappers in Bangladesh has been most vocal regarding all the social issues in the country. I call every one of these young rappers as young Nozrul. Nozrul Islam was our rebel poet back in uh, back in back in the days, and I think they played a very, very, very crucial role. And it will be unfair to talk only about the rappers. As you know, hip hop is a very big branch. It has music producers, it has graffiti artists, rappers, beatboxers. Every single one played their role. There was this producer, a lot of producers chipped in. There was this producer called Anvil. He personally gave 30 to 40 free beats music to rappers so that they don't have to pay for music. They can just release their songs. I personally know two or three sound engineers who gave their studio away for free. I mean, this really shows how everyone wanted to break free. And I think rappers acted as a catalyst and made everyone join the same cause. One of our rappers, as I mentioned before, Hannan, he was arrested in Naranganj. And in our hip hop community, we have some legal professionals. I would like to mention Tawfiq Ahmed, Sikatov. He's a rapper and currently he's in UK. He's in the legal field, as well as Akib Jawad. He's also a rapper and he's also a barrister. So these people reached out to Hannan and offered him like all the legal help he can get. So again, my eyes are becoming teary because we have been like talking about this for such a long time, and finally we saw an explosion of rebel songs or hip hop music, which was aligned with I think everyone's vision to have a free and democratic country.
Thank you so much. I will open the floor for the other panelists if they want to talk. Lenin Bhai.
Yeah, sure. Few things. I think when Skip was actually talking about the whole artistic freedom issue holistically. But last few years, I think some of your colleagues at ADN and also knew that we are trying to bring this issue as a movement part. But then it was very strugglesome for us, particularly to the theater workers who are performing the theater arts, particularly within the drama culture. There are some very rebellious actor and actress, but then it was difficult for us to bring this discussion. And I also think at this stage, even post mass uprising scenario, if you look at the TV channels, then you can see that whole movement pictures and videos are actually being recorded, and those are actually being shown. But then the songs, what is they are playing in the background music, as a background music, those are not really these rapper song or hip hop songs. These are coming from 1971 song. I mean, that's also for me is a very frustrating, because the mass popular cultural industry not really acknowledging this struggle and the role they played in this movement. This is one. Second thing, at the same time, we need to probably also recognize that these rapper songs and others, other movement into this artistic field, not necessarily we are recognizing as a quote unquote winning force of this mass uprising. These need to be acknowledged, and these need to be actually recorded and formalized in a certain form. Obviously, revolutionary movement, when it's happened, and that's at the end, that's totally depend upon success and also power. Probably that's need to rework probably in certain extent to recognize the given situation. And final thoughts regarding this, I think it's important at this stage probably record those things, but at the same time, the current given political scenario, what we are facing, that's very, very much intense, and we probably have to have a long-term and short-term vision, and implementation strategy need to be very clear and simple. But so far, the frustration from the people is started already in a different forms. I don't know where it will take, but at the same time, I consider that these policymakers who are representative of this mass uprising, they need to be taken into this consideration.
Thank you so much, Lenny. So this actually leads to the last question, that is for you. That is, we are at a critical juncture, to be honest, and that was something that you were saying. Especially there is a jubilation on the streets. There was a jubilation in the streets right after the fall of Sheikh Hasina, and then there is a lot of aspirations coming out from the people of all walks of life, people holding different views about different things. So we are getting both positive and negative reports from Bangladesh. Positive reports includes the replacement of some of the corrupt and crooked officials at the different institutions, and there is a I would say enhanced effort to hold the institutions more accountable from the new government side. And on the other hand, like we have observed some incidents where politicians or the people who were close to the recently deposed regime in the recent years have been mistreated on several occasions. So from this point, I would like to ask you that what should be prioritized to reform Bangladesh institutions and to ensure a democratic future, safeguarding human rights?
Okay, I think your question is very long and it's a very critical question to me, but at the same time, I would like to answer it with the further questions to our friends. Probably, first of all, we need to ask that whether the people who are representative at the interim government, they are equitable, accountable, and at the same time transparent process whether they maintain to formation of this interim government. This is question number one. Second question, the legality and legitimacy after or during and after their power ends, whether that the legitimacy and legality question will be popped up or not. Still, there are some legality questions are there, but from the political science perspective, probably there is no legality question at all. But at the same time, I don't want it to term this is a revolution at all. This is a mass uprising was there, revolutionary moment was there. But when you kept continuing your previous constitution and constitutional continuity actually being maintained, and you take an oath to protect, promote, and secure your constitution, then automatically from the political science perspective, it's a problematic. So I stop here. And then regarding this negative positioning, there are positive things. Obviously, there are attempts to formalize a number of things. For example, they are planning to come up with a commission who will deal with the former detainees or extrajudicial killing and enforced disappearance cases. What happened last 15 and 16 years. They wanted to actually check, the reality check probably, and also brought them into justice through making a commission. They are planning to giving a signature and ratification on the Enforced Disappearance Convention. There are also political commitment to amendment number of laws. Those are problematic. There are only few individual already released from their cases through process of judiciary. Through judiciary. These are the things positive. But then, obviously, for me, the attack happening against the perpetrators or accused inside the court premises, that's horrendous. It should stop. It should not continue. And the situation, what probably is happening is an expression, some forms of expression. Some people are wanted to legitimize in the name of expression or freedom of expression, but that's problematic. That should not be done. And obviously, judiciary in the police custody who are taken into remands, they should not be subject to police torture, because these are the things what we actually fought. And the way the cases are actually being filed is heavily problematic to me, particularly this International Crimes Tribunal Act, which actually being used against the accused in recent days. That act particularly need to amend, because that act has a conviction power of death penalty. Death penalty should not be actually recognized to any civilized, quote unquote, civilized nation. And Bangladesh need to actually heavily reject the idea of death penalty into their upcoming new laws. There are symptoms of it within this interim government, that they are also opposing the death penalty. But at the same time, when these cases are actually being filed under the International Crimes Tribunal Act, where my colleagues at the HRW, Amnesty International, Bar Association, all of them are rejected this particular act back in 2010 and 11, 12, and 13. So to me, these negative effects are there, but at the same time, we need to also understand this administrative body or state apparatus who are into power. They don't have at all the previous experiences to run the state. It should not be romanticized. It should not be out of this so-called revolutionary zeal, but at the same time, it needs to be maintain the human rights principle like accountability, transparency, non-discrimination, which is a big words during this whole students and citizens movement. And at the same time, the institutions which are collapsed already, particularly DGFI, that's Army's intelligence, their power should be curtailed. They don't have any power legally, and we don't know how they function, what is their administrative power, where it's coming from. That should be stopped. Rapid Action Battalion, which is a notorious force, have a sanction from US Treasury Department. That's also need to be banned. No enforced disappearances, no extrajudicial killing and police brutality will happen into the police custody. That should be ensured. And we have a strong laws and policies, and we have to also reform some of the laws and policies, and also come up with the new laws and policies, particularly on enforced disappearance. That these things need to be done. And final thing, I think the Cyber Security Act, which is a notorious act, previously it was a Digital Security Act, almost 7,000 or plus, 7,000 plus accused are there, family members are there. We closely work with them, those victims. Those cases which are still alive, those need to be removed. Only cases from Rosina Islam or Adil Rahman Khan Shubro, who is a friend of ADN, is a member of ADN, and their case, and Nasiruddin Elan, his colleague, these cases only withdrawn. And this is not a process. It's only cherry picking cases should be solved to popularize the people's mind. Should not be an approach. They are also saying that they are going to amend the Cyber Security Act. Cyber Security Act is not amendable. This act need to repeal, and with the people's participation, accountability, transparency, non-discrimination, this should be a key indicator to repeal and enact new ordinances. And final words from me: if this interim government failed, then we will enter to the age of interim government in Bangladesh. That's need to be remembered. And my friends who are probably into the power at this stage, whom we worked whom we admire as a senior fellow human rights activist, our respect and love and other things won't sustain if they failed. So that's my aspiration, and I think some of the 1 or 2, 3 questions are there. I also love to answer 1 or 2 probably, but at this stage, I think this state needs lots of policy level decision which need to respect democratic principle and human rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we will move on to the question and answer session at this point. Though we have lost one of our panelists, Nusrat, who is right now supporting the flood victims in Bangladesh, but we will forward the question to our other two panelists, and I will also try to assist with answering some of them. So the first question, it's from Verena. She's a journalist, I think based in Germany. Her question is, can you elaborate on how students are still involved in reforming the government, and how many members of the student movement are involved in the government now? Anyone?
Okay, Verena is our known friend, so let me try. Verena, thanks for joining. I think two of the representatives are there at the interim government, but they are holistically moving, collectively moving with other interim government advisors. Their presence are around, at least to the media. There is a Yunus house that's called Jamuna. Jamuna is the name of river. But at the Jamuna, I heard that many leadership who are involved into this movement, they have access. They can actually request. Their requests are respected. But then also the question is probably for me whether those requests are appropriate or not, because that's also probably need to be described or prescribed to us, to the whole citizens with an accountable and transparent process. To me, still is a fluid a little bit, because there are mechanisms that need to be established to have these forms of formalized communication. But I think there are scope for them to have raised their voices, and still powerful quarters are really afraid of them. But at the same time, I would like to say, Verena, probably it will be interested for you, that there is no discussion at all on Rohingya refugee issues at the policy level. We need to raise and come up with some forms of discussion, at least into these powerful quarters.
The next question is, what are your key takeaways from that which has just happened? Where do you see yourself from here on in? It came from Telibert Lau. What are the key takeaways from the movement?
If I may chip in, I
Yeah.
think one of the key takeaway for me is that no matter even if things go bleak in the future, even if the dark forces or defeated forces somehow gets to grip us again, I think this, the Bangladeshi people has proven that in time and time again that we can defeat any negative forces. So I think that is the key takeaway from me. I mean, if you look at the country's history, we defeated an impossible force in 71. We had a mass amount of starvation. I think it was in 74. We had two or three accounts of dictatorship or authoritarian regime. We had COVID. We had economic collapse. I mean, the people of Bangladesh face so many natural and unnatural calamities, but they could come out of it like in a snap. It took a lot of effort. It cost a lot of life. But I think this just shows that these people in general have a very unique fighting spirit. I may sound utopian, but I think I have cases to prove that actually it's not. And as you know, we are going through a very bad flood right now. The involvement of general people is absolutely remarkable. Obviously, the government, the army, the authorities are stepping in, but the common people are playing a very, very important role. So I think that's the takeaway from me.
Thank you.
I have
Another
a
question that is,
short takeaway. I
yeah.
wish the military agencies and also the law enforcement agencies leaving their bulletproof jackets come up with a life jackets. That's need to be done. That should be respected. People power of resilience they already notice. It's very hard to convince the people of Bangladesh who are inherently got a very revolutionary state back in 1971. And they again proved it that any forms of authoritarian decision and undemocratic principle, if a particular group or individual or a state or a family try to achieve through an authoritarian power, that will be uprooted, that for sure. So in that scenario, I think law enforcement agencies, military should leave their bulletproof jackets, come up with a life jackets for the people's safety and for their livelihood. And final thing, I think Indian state as a neighboring state probably need to think again for their own citizens, Indian citizens who have a very friendly relationship with Bangladeshi citizens. But this notorious Modi and also genocidal Modi need to be stopped from their own position. The way they open the floodgate at this stage and the people suffering, that should not be forgivable. This is a genocidal situation actually being created.
Thank you so much. Another question, I think, again from Telebird, that is, what might the failure of the interim government look like?
Okay, so for me, I try to understand from within this 2 weeks period of time. I think 3 things are very good. For example, at this stage, they try to gradually absorb the people's aspiration, what is there. They are keep meeting with the people who are the victims of the previous regime, particularly enforced disappearance, extrajudicial killing, Cybersecurity Act, and others. But then one thing is important at this stage, probably reconstructing the economy. That is probably key at this stage. If they can resolve or some forms of protection mechanism come up with this quote unquote economic failure or economy economic boost up in a certain forms, then probably it will be a great success for this current government. And on the other side, I think at this stage, probably 3 things important, particularly to have a accountable truth and accountable commission which can actually give a justice. Justice is not someone to hang into death penalty row or something, or firing live bullets to them, but justice and also kind of apology as a state to those victims, and deep reform and reconstruction and reconciliation is important rather than revenge. If this current stage is current interim government is a revengeful, then it will be an end. And as I told earlier, that it can lead to Bangladesh and in the age of interim governments. Number of interim government can come, members can be changed, but the given situation will be same. So I think respected 8-9 human rights principle, democratic principle, very much important. Ownership, partnership, and at the same time, non-discriminatory, accountable, transparent, and obviously upholding the civil and political rights, which absolutely jeopardize and institutional development can save the failure of this interim government.
Thank you so much. So the next question comes from Naomi Hussain from SOAS. Is there anything to learn from other student movements that have entered into national politics? And also, she has added another question, that is, do you think there is a need at some point, perhaps not immediately, for a national peace process with public hearings and transitional justice to help the country move on from these atrocities? I think you have covered in your last part just now, but still, like, if you want to speak on those things.
No, no, I mean, thank you, Apnarke. But that the issue is, if you remember, in back in 2007, there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It was a particularly moved by the Anti-Corruption Commission at that time and powerful quarters of that time. This peace process into this country, introduction to that, it is hard in my understanding. But it needs to be done, that for sure. But that Truth and Reconciliation Commission actually challenged at the High Court division, if you remember, and then that High Court division actually come up with a judgment verdict by saying that Truth and Reconciliation Commission at that time what actually created that was not legal. And also for peace process, transnational justice process, there are discussions back in 2000, late 2000, I mean, at the beginning of the 2000 till 2010, 11. And still some of the organizations are working into this field, but to me is NGO nice, is absolutely neoliberal models they follow. So to me, I don't know at this stage whether public hearing, transnational justice will really help, because I am very closely connected with the victims of Enforced Japan, Cybersecurity Act, and extrajudicial killing. So far, I think revenge hunch is so strong at this stage. I think psychosocial training, trauma, post-traumatic disorder, this situation. This need to be included into our discussion. So far, unfortunately, not much discussion into that, and also to your earlier question about the other student movement, home and abroad, probably you mean. I think it's very unfortunate this student movement not really reflected to Southeast Asian context or East Asian context at all. I'm not sure how much is actually our colleagues and friends who are in the East Asia or Southeast Asia or South Asia, how much they really closely following this movement, and also not sure about our colleagues who and friends who actually involved into this movement have some transnational approach to deal with this. Still, there is a scope, and scholars like you and others are probably helpful to us to understand this situation and change the national politics diagram. There are some attempts. Students are planning to come up with a new political party, and with the help from other professionals. But how much it will be tangible in long run, that's a question, because the powerful quarters who overthrown Sheikh Hasina, they are still exist without accountability.
She actually recommended the student movement of Chile, I guess, who are right now in power. We should like include this in the recommendation part of our briefing paper when we write this. Thank you so much, Nom Hussein. So I will move on to another question that came out from an anonymous attendee, which is about like something that we were mentioning about the revenge, the hunch for revenge and everything. That what's your take on social boycotting of the family members of the ex-ministers, MPs, and politicians associated with the fascist government? Shouldn't they be made socially redundant?
I would love to deal with this culturally, so I'm passing it to Skip. Please.
Now, you really cannot control your emotions at this point of stage, right? What I would say is that there should not be any violence, right? For any, I personally know some musician who, if I say, or some rapper who were active members of the previous regime, but yet they release songs. So again, we should not look at the person specifically, rather whether that person is involved in any crime or any injustice. And to be very honest, this is what, 23rd August. It's been only 2 weeks. So people emotion will be very high. Uh, as soon as the government sets up, all the processes are firm, the police can act on their own. I think these things will be in control. And regarding about making them socially redundant or not, I think, it's the public, they will speak for themselves.
Thank you so much. I think we have covered most of the things. But there was another question on has there any social media influencer or YouTubers who played an important role during the uprising by making continuous videos on the movement? I think Deepak Negi, he's trying to understand like whether there was any social media influencers who influenced the movement by uploading videos. Do you know of any?
Yes. I have seen. I mean, pre-independence. I think we can call it our second independence. So pre-independence and post-independence, I have seen a lot of YouTubers and influencers directly talking to the youth in order to fix whatever the problem which is going on. If I talk about the pre-part, there has been effort to for donations, for helping out the injured, for ensuring that the protest stays active. And after August 6th, we have seen good efforts by influencers as well as YouTubers in order to tackle the immediate problems. As you know, there was a big traffic problem, right? So we have seen like famous influencers on the street, not only making videos, but rather directing the traffic and controlling them. Uh, Mob justice usually prevails in this situation, and we have seen calls from influencers and YouTubers in order to make things more peaceful. So they have been active. Some of them, who were in support of the previous dictator regime, they have now realized their mistake and they have seeked an apology. Most of them are working in order to create a better Bangladesh.
I think social media played a big role thanks to Mark Zuckerberg. But although Facebook is a notorious platform, we have to remember. But obviously, some of the influencer, not influencer for Hasina's regime, they played a big role. Some of the name need to be taken. Julkarnain Sayer, Pinaki Bhattacharya, Tasnim Khalil, Jia Hassan. There are numbers. Name should not be contained with few popular names whom we follow. Each and everyone search their findings into the social media. I think social media played a big role, and obviously we have to also remember that not only these formalized social media played a big role, also local family members, local vendors, rickshaw puller, workers, they are also heavily involved into their own social capitals into the street. I'm not sure how much is into the very much rural level, because we have to remember back in 90s, we also overthrown General Ershad by taking peanuts at the press club. So we have to also consider that that democratization process, quote unquote, which actually started in 1991, that's unfinished. That's why this revolutionary situation actually kept coming in Bangladesh. So we probably need to also write down these things, how is actually influenced not only the available social media, but there are a number of offline situations. Many people took their life risks. They actually even got shot into the street. Almost 1,000 people actually killed. And some of our friends who were heavily involved into this movement. As a supporter of the movement, they actually, their dead body even not found. Even some of them are heavily injured now into the hospitals. And also some of them who are earlier missing as the enforced Japanese scans, they are not being found. So I think that's very very holistic approach probably we need to come up with in short, what probably Naomi was saying, actually suggesting to us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lenin bhai. So we don't have any question in the box, and I think we are almost close to the ending time as well. So at this moment, I would like to invite Sabra again for the closing remarks, and then I think we can uh, declare the ending of it.
Yeah, so my colleague will be giving the closing
Okay,
remarks. You're on mute
sorry.
right now.
Hello, my name is Sue. I'm the Senior Program Manager at the Asia Democracy Network. Thank you to all the panelists for your insight and the deeper look into what's happening in Bangladesh. And as the region and globally, we are very aware and very want to get to know a lot more on what's happening. So thank you for your insight. We're hoping that ADN could keep continuing to provide these type of platforms and spaces so that we could see what's going on, and also to let everyone know that we're watching, and if there's anything that we could do that we could quickly mobilize. So we really appreciate your time, and we're hoping that this will continue. This is not the ending, but continue to have these discussions, and then hopefully we could all together strategize on what we could do to make things a little bit more bring more progress to democracy in Bangladesh. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for staying till the end, and we hope to see you guys soon again.
With that hope and aspirations, I think we can close the event. Thank you so much to everyone for joining today.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night. Have a
Thanks
good
everyone.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Reza.